Good morning, Armor Down. I hope that when you're watching this from a place of ease, a place of kind of steadiness, that your kind of present moment is relatively quiet, and when you recognize your mind, it's not too far away, and that you're able to kind of bring it back to the moment. I hope that your body is not complaining in any kind of massive way, like, showing up in any kind of discomfort or pain or frustration that, you don't know how to interact with. And I hope your heart is optimistic. I hope your heart is full of optimism and love and belief that everything will be okay. So I hope this is where this video finds you, because what I want to talk about today is the relationship between participating with conflict and becoming conflict. And so earlier this week, we talked about how peace is not the absence of war. And so today, kind of building on that from kind of the big picture to the individual picture, I want to talk about the fact that we can participate with conflict without becoming it. So how does that work? Well, the way we participate with life is, as I kind of language it, as I talk about it, is in three ways. So we participate with life by the story we tell about it. And I associate that with our minds. Like, the mind is the thing that we use to connect with other people. It's where language connects us. It's our story of our past. It's also our story of how we think about the future. That's the mind. So that's one realm. Other realm is the body. Now, the body is our relationship to the present moment. And now the mind can relate to the present moment too, but it relates to the present moment by integrating with the body. It integrates with the present moment. And so the body really offers us a chance to recognize conflict not simply as this coulda, shoulda, woulda been, this needs to be, and instead interacting with the conflict as it is for you in the moment, not in the story, but in the moment. Where is the conflict in the moment? And you can't look for that in your mind. You have to look for that in your body. Your body is what's giving you the embodiment of the moment. And so then the third place is to interact with conflict around your heart. And what that really means is your heart closes through conflict if you don't know what you're doing. So the heart begins to kind of shield itself, it begins to protect itself, and it begins to separate. And the hardest part about this is that the heart is your greatest protector, your greatest power, your greatest resource when it comes to participating with conflict. And if your heart is armored, right? If your heart is closed, it's going to be very hard for you to interact with conflict in any kind of skillful way. And so you've got these three kind of realms of the human experience. You got your mind, you got your body, you got your heart, and they all interact with each other. It's just, this is what makes the human experience so worth it. It's so complex. You've got the trifecta, boom, boom, mind, heart, body, and, if the mind is telling a story, the body will turn that story into the moment, and then that will impact the heart. And this relationship can go in any direction. The all three can be linked in any different way. And so when I say become the conflict, that's what I mean. So for example, here's something kind of, I think, relatable. Okay. So talking to a colleague, and this colleague is describing a relationship to other colleagues that's less than ideal. It's a relationship where there's a particular style of doing things, and that particular style of doing things is in conflict with other colleagues that don't have that same style. Colleague A is thinking, if colleagues B and C only did what colleague A did, then everything would be better. And colleague A understands the way things should be from their perspective, right? This is how they should be. And then colleague B and C don't see that same thing. And so colleague A is trying to get colleague B and C to see the way they see. So if only colleague B and C saw things like colleague A, then colleague A could feel better, could feel more optimistic. And so I'm interacting with colleague A around this reality of colleague A in relation to B and C, and I feel the conflict. And so for me, that interaction is one of patience and acknowledgement and participation with colleague A's conflict. Now, part of colleague A's conflict is that they recognize the situation based on how they are. Remember Anais Nin? We don't see things the way they are. We see things how we are. So colleague A sees colleague B and C as they are, right? Colleague A is thinking, if colleague A and B were like, if colleague B and C were like colleague A, were like me, colleague A, then everything would be fine. Because colleague B and C aren't like colleague A goes into a mindset of, I don't know what to do. I need colleague B and C to be like me. And because they're not, maybe this just isn't the place for me. Maybe I need to switch focus. Maybe I not only need to switch focus, maybe I need to find a whole new series, a whole new community to interact with, because, this conflict that we're feeling it's just too big. There's nothing I can do about this. I have to change. Everything has to be changed, because this is the way I see it. This is the way, I know it. And I'm trying to get colleague B and C to be like colleague me, be like A, and they're just not doing it, and, maybe this is a sign, this is a bigger sign, maybe this is something more, maybe I have to think about, completely changing everything. And so it's this interaction with the conflict that I'm talking about. So this colleague A is becoming the conflict. The conflict is no longer, oh, here's some experience that I'm experiencing. Here's the way my body's responding to it. Here's, oh gosh, look at that tension in the shoulders. Here's the, oh man, now I'm really kind of down. It's not, the colleague A is not participating with that. Colleague A is becoming the conflict. Colleague A is, this is how it is. This is how it needs to be. But this is not happening. I don't know what to do about this. This is going to be projected into the future as I'm going to have to get a whole new relationship to all this. I'm going to have to totally change everything to get away from this. So the conflict is becoming them. They're not aware of their projections into the future. They're not aware that they are seeing the world as they are, as opposed to as it is. Their patience is gone. Their connection to B and C is frayed. They're becoming the conflict. And so the difference is being aware that the conflict has these different presentations. So you see that, okay, I see this is participation. You see that there's a narrative that's developing. So you recognize your mind in it. This is my standard for professional behavior is X. Okay. This is me. This is who I am. I'm seeing that standard being projected on B and C. I'm seeing it projected on the other. So my standard projected on them. I recognize that. That's the mind. Okay. Is that accurate? Could be, maybe not. But, more importantly, I recognize that I'm creating that. Okay. Got it. All right. So that's mind. Okay. Now, what's happening in my body? Well, I'm aware that I'm, maybe not sleeping as well. I'm aware of just feeling really down. I'm aware of kind of a sense of quickening on the inside when I'm interacting with the people that I am in a kind of conflict with. I can feel it in my body. I'm aware just now. I'm aware of talking about it. I'm aware of how the actual talking of the conflict kind of causes me to droop a little bit. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of my motivation sinking. I'm aware of my projections into the future, of catastrophization. I'm aware of that. Okay. All right. So I'm aware of these things. Okay. So what do we do? What do you do? Well, the way you participate with conflict is by getting to a place where you can open your heart, which is literally the practice, which is the 4 bells. So what you're doing when you're practicing the 4 bells is, one, you're recognizing the present moment as opposed to the story of the conflict. So the story of the conflict. This is how it came. This is how it should be. This is how it's going to go. Okay. Whether that's true or not, the key is, all right, I know I'm doing this. Let me come into focus. Let me come into focus. Why do you want to come into focus? Because chances are, if you're not aware of all this stuff and you're not practicing all this stuff, your body is actually making the conflict that you're perceiving in your mind worse. Your posture is going to have a huge impact on this. If there's tension in places that you're not paying attention to, that's why second bell goes through the body, going through the body. What's happening at my ground? What's happening in my hips? What's happening in my core? What's happening in my heart? What's happening in my throat? What's happening in my head? Body keeps score. Bessel-van-der-Kolk. The mind can create the body. Okay. The body can facilitate the mind. And then you get the spirit involved, the heart involved, the mystery of what we are involved. That's when it really starts to take shape. So first bell, okay, I'm in the story. Okay, let me just, whether it's right or wrong, let me just come into the present moment. Tame the mind. All right, come on, mind. Let's go in the present moment. Tame the mind. Mind says, all right, fine, come to the present moment. And it's like, mind, let's go through the body. Well, why? I don't want to go through the body. Yes, you do. Because look, mind, if you go through the body, you release any tension that you might be holding, kind of get everything kind of neutralized, get everything to kind of a zero state, then maybe we can do something about it. Maybe we can interact with the conflict as opposed to the intellectual interacting with the conflict. The intellectual interacting with the conflict means that the conflict will be over when this happens, right? If this happens and this happens, then the conflict will be over and then I'll be fine. But the problem with that is you're still in the conflict. You don't want to become that, because you can become the future. You can become the past. We know that from studying PTSD. You can become wherever your mind is. You can become that. So it's like, all right, second bell, let me tame the mind. Boom. Let me get in the body. All right, boom. Now let me do something about it. The breath. Okay. So when we're getting into third bell and we're practicing with the breath, what we're doing is we're practicing the awareness of where this kind of connection between the mind and the body shows up, the complexities of emotions. So present awareness, that's your mind, that's your attention. or your mind and your body together make emotions, right? So it's that interplay, the mind body together overlapping. They're not really separate anyway. We just have to do that to talk about it, but they overlap, mind body, and the emotions give that fuller experience. I mean, it's part of what being human is so great, the emotions, right? So the emotions, boom, emotions are overlapping. Okay, where the location of the emotion, not what they mean, not the story of the emotion, but where are the emotions? Well, that's third bell. We're studying where the emotions are, where they show up, what they show up as, how they show up in all these different ways. I mean, the complexity of how emotions show up as part of the experience of being human is just, I mean, it's infinite, right? It can show up anywhere. It can show up all over. But by third bell, exploring where they show up, and then exploring how the breath represents itself differently inside. We're learning about the inside with the breath. We're learning about the inside with the breath. And the breath has the capacity to turn down the impact of the body on the mind, and thus the mind's impact on the body. So it turns that cycle, that becoming the conflict, it turns it way down. It settles it way down. So that's third bell. And then we get to fourth bell, and this is the big piece, right? This is always going to be the whole point of Armor Down, is to open the heart. You get to that fourth bell to open the heart, and then you start to see that if you can participate with conflict instead of becoming it, then you can interact with the conflict more skillfully. Now, ultimately, more skillfully means with more love, with more patience, with more spaciousness, with more recognition that the reality that you are seeing is more about you than the reality of the thing you are seeing. And so once you recognize that, once you kind of humble yourself, humble your interpretations, don't disavow them. Don't say what I'm thinking stupid. It's not what I mean. But recognize that what you're perceiving, that story, is only a sliver of it. Come into the present moment. Recognize how your body is manifesting that story as well. Okay. Tame that, train that, get to the breath. Got it. Settle. And then boom, going into conflict. So many times when you identify with the conflict, if you interact with the conflict, it just furthers the conflict. It just keeps it growing. But with skill, the interaction with the conflict becomes an opportunity. It becomes an opportunity for the impact of love. The impact of love is awesome. It's just the greatest. It's the coolest thing in the world to see what love does right up against conflict. You know, if you're in battle, right? If you're in battle and you add love to a battle, that's courage. That's bravery, right? That's what love does. If you're in an argument at work, right? If you're in a conflict at work, okay? What love does when it enters, it's spaciousness. It's patience. It's I see what's happening inside of me with the conflict. At the very least, I'm not going to add to the conflict. I'm going to participate with the conflict from the awareness of my mind's proclivities, my body's proclivities, my emotional proclivities, and then with my open heart. Because the second you bring an open heart to a conflict, the conflict changes. It totally changes. Because the heart has the infinite capacity to hold suffering, to hold harshness, to hold anger, hold hate, and not hold it by means of like keeping it in, but like hold it in terms of turn it into something that is different. The heart's infinite capacity to take and transform all of human suffering into compassion is fundamentally the essence of all the great teachings. It's what has brought us to now. Jesus, Buddha, the Taoists. I mean, this understanding of everything everything about the human experience leads to the reality of the power of love. That's really it. So the question is, how do you get to it? And how do you interact with love? And that's the way, I don't want to be weak, blah, blah, blah. That's ridiculous. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to participate with conflict. It's hard because your mind will want to go to the story. Your mind will want to complement itself through your body. The narrative, to identify with the narrative, to become the conflict, is a very powerful, it's almost like fun to become the conflict, because it's very motivating. It motivates you. It's like, oh yeah, it's time to make some changes, time to get action, time to fix this shit. Gotta fix it, and then not to mention how much effort is made to make us become the conflict. Think of how many things are out there trying to get you to become the conflict. We talked about ideology. If you've watched the training videos, we've talked about ideology. We've talked about interpolation. We've talked about the way media and marketing, everything in our culture is designed to get you, right? To get your mind, to get your story. If you're this will help you achieve your goal. If you're this person, this will help you feel better. If you're this is what you need. Here's your identity. Here's what helps your identity. Here's what makes the future better, right? Propaganda. God, it's not, don't feel bad. Remember, all this stuff that we're learning is relatively, new in the West. This whole idea, right, of being aware of all these things. This hasn't been around for a long time. This is relatively new. What has been around for a long time is propaganda. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's all designed to get you to not participate with the conflict, but to become it. Become the conflict. And it's not what you want. You don't want to become the conflict. You want to participate with the conflict. You have to participate with the conflict. And you got to participate in an appropriate way. But in order to do that, you got to recognize where you fall short. And the first place you fall short is with the mind that identifies the story and identifies itself as the story. And if you identify with your mind, you're identifying with the story. The story is what's real, but in reality, that's not what is really real. It's what you are bringing to that story. Next, you recognize that your body is becoming the story. The more you think the story, the more you participate with the story, the more you acknowledge the story as the whole, the more your body responds to that. Then your emotions. If the heart rate picks up and everything's going and you're just in it, and all of a sudden the story is no longer just the story, it's everything. It's all of this. And if you keep allowing, then all of a sudden the heart starts to close, right? And that's not necessarily a kind of thing where you're like, oh my God, my heart's closing. The heart's closing. It's like, yeah, it's time to get going. It's time to do this. This is what really needs to happen. The other, fuck them. It's their fault. They're the ones. This is the enemy. This is who I must attack. This is why I'm this way. Once they're gone, then everything will be great again. Now the conflict is fully embodied. It's now a part of everything. We must fight. We must get it done. And so now it's all on. Go online, go to news media, go to particular resources that are unabashedly propaganda, and you will see where the story came from, where it's going, how you're involved, and how it could be fixed by blaming this person or blaming this other. And then the cycle continues, right? Become the conflict. Become it. Nah, don't become the conflict. Participate with it. All right, so we're going to go through 4 bells. I'm going to emphasize some different experiences on third bell. You might want to just take a look at what I'm doing, kind of watching, and maybe participate a little bit. Because what I'm going to do in third bell is I'm going to create some kind of faster sensations. I'm going to create some more intense sensations on third bell, so you don't necessarily have to participate. Most of these may be unfamiliar to you, but there'll be some kind of intensity there that I'll kind of frame out for you and show you, and maybe I'll kind of talk to you about where I'm feeling the intensity, so you can kind of get an idea. And then, of course, we'll go to fourth bell and open our hearts. So, all right. Let's get this going. Let's get this training going. Adjust my legs here. Yeah, another thing with the body, especially if you're military trained, no pain, no gain. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Suck it up. All that kind of stuff. One of the first places you can practice relation to conflict is the conflict within your own physicality, your own physical body. So if you feel discomfort somewhere, try to make it a little bit better. Try to create a little bit more comfort and ease. It really is a practice. It takes a while. It takes a while to really start to participate with conflict instead of becoming the conflict. I mean, it really is a kind of a shift in what we're kind of culturally conditioned to do. Gotta fight. What does that mean? I don't care. Just fight. It's the other. No, it's not so simple. And nor are we just we're not automatons. Although, anyway, okay. So just recognize where you are right in this moment. Come into the present moment right now. Settle into the present moment. It might even be worth thinking about a conflict that you might be feeling, that you might be in. I mean, it might be worth bringing to mind how you're interacting with the conflict in Ukraine. Maybe it's worth bringing to mind how you're interacting with the conflict to your family or to at work or whatever. But just kind of be present with where you're at in regards to conflict. Just notice it. You don't have to do anything about it. We'll do the practice. To have conflict in your mind is not a problem. To have conflict in your body is not a problem. The problem is the narrative, the story that just gets reproduced without any participation. That's the problem. So you can have any conflict you want. And then what we're going to do is we're not going to eliminate the conflict. We're going to shift our focus. We're going to shift our focus out of the narrative of the conflict in bell one into the present moment. We're going to shift our focus into the body, and the conflict may be coming back into our minds, right? And that's okay. If the conflict's coming back, you're just like, oh, there it is. But I'm going to go back to what I'm doing. So, first bell. Taming the mind. Smell. Hint of cardboard smell. There's a lot of cardboard smell. Hint of cardboard smell, but also the sensation of air passing the entrance of my nostrils, a little pull of the hairs inside my nose. Shifting to mouth, sensations in mouth. Tip of the tongue, sides of the tongue, back of the tongue, moisture. Touch. So right now I'm feeling the edges of my jacket sleeves. The end of the sleeve is right at the middle of my hand. So I'm feeling the place that my sleeve stops and where my skin is open to the air. Now zeroing in on that, all of a sudden sensation shows up on my forearms, the tops of my forearms. I can feel the fabric of the sleeve on the top of my forearm, and then the bottom of my forearms, I can feel a little bit of space in between my sleeve and my skin, and there's a little bit of cold air there. I can feel that. I can feel the broadness of the heat on my right hand, which is closer to the heater, versus my left hand. My left hand feels a tiny sliver of the heat, but my right hand really, the whole right hand really feels the heat. All right, now I'm going to move out of my body into sense of sound. So I'm going to reach out with sound, starting in close. There's silence, largely right around me. A little bit further out, there's the hum of the space heater. Now, further out in the room, there's silence. I'm going to go outside my house with my awareness, looking for any sounds. I'm expecting birds. Nothing. Maybe a truck's going by on the street way outside of the house, but that could just be my imagination trying to, remember predictive processing, trying to kind of, that must be a sound, that must be a sound, but mostly it's just quiet. Yeah, no birds. So that's taming the mind. Let's go bell 2. Felt really nice to close my eyes. So going to ground. Shifted my crisscross applesauce a little bit. So instead of having the right leg in close, I got the left leg in close. The right leg is out a little bit further, so I can really feel the pressure of the way my legs are crossed on my right side of the ground. So I'm going to make an adjustment there. It's a little bit better. Okay, come to my seat, pelvis. I'm going to go to the core. Just kind of playing around with the core, kind of pushing the belly button out a little bit, making some shifts left and right. Again, just finding that position. The finding of the position of comfort is interacting with the present moment. So the body is always communicating constantly. And so these little movements, the little engagement, like listening to the body and making a move, really important. Little subtle stuff. Let comfort be your guide. If you're uncomfortable, look for some comfort. Make the adjustments. Make an adjustment. See if that's better or if it's worse. So in a sense, there's conflict, right? This should be this way, or this could be this way. Participate with it. Don't try to fix it. Don't try to eliminate it. Just participate with it. Use those edges. Now, heart space. So I'm noticing tension on the left side of my shoulders. So I'm going to move that around. Notice some popping. Feels good to just kind of move that. Yeah, that feels good. I mean, if that feels good, follow that. Maybe I'll just stretch all the way out here. That actually feels nice. Okay. Yep. That really was nice. Okay. A lot more spacious now. Okay, throat space. I've got a cold sore in my mouth, so that showed up right away. It's like this little, like a little dot. It's like a dot of kind of gray, black, white. That's what the sensation feels like. Gray, black, white. It just feels like this dot of discomfort inside my mouth on the left side. And when I move my jaw, kind of my teeth pass it. I can feel that. Yeah, especially when I move my jaw left to right, that really shows up there. It's not a massive sensation, but I definitely feel it really stands out from the rest of my mouth, which doesn't have any sensation really, other than kind of moisture. Top of the head, top of the head, top of the spine. You know, look back down through my spine and most everything feels pretty comfortable. Body feels pretty good. Okay, let's go third bell. So now we're going to interact with a little bit more variety here. So the first and simplest kind of way to recognize some intensity inside the body is to play around with inhales and exhales, but holding at the top and holding at the bottom. So all I'm going to do is just get the inhale and exhale bigger. So go ahead and come to max out inhale. And full exhale. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start holding a little bit longer at the top and holding a little bit longer at the bottom. So I'm going to breathe all the way in. Hold at the top. Now as I'm holding, I'm watching the sensations change in my body while the breath hold takes shape. Notice my heartbeat. Notice the pressure. Now the urge to breathe out is showing up. Right now the urge is small. It's starting to grow. And I'm going to let it out. Now I'm going to hold at the bottom. And the urge to breathe in shows up quick. Now I feel it spitting up in my body. And I'm going to breathe back in. Relief. Get back up at the top. Just kind of holding that. Right now it feels nice. Comfortable. The body feels full of air. Now it's changing. Slow change, but it's changing. The desire to breathe out is going up. Feel my heart pounding. Now it's starting to come up. Sensations coming up. Sensations up here now. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. So here we go. And before I hold at the bottom, I'm just going to talk you through. So on the back side of my throat, the back side of my heart space, there's this pressure. There's just this, like I want to catch my breath, just kind of this little, kind of a little bit of panicky kind of thing, kind of. So now I'm going to just dive straight down into the bottom. Hold it. Throat already. Breathe it, breathe it. It's already pressure. Now it's chest space. Chest space. Spit up, spit up, spit up. Hurry up, hurry up. Breathe it, breathe it. Oh, it's now it's in my back. Panicky. Catch my breath. Oh gosh. Heat changes, heat flash. Now my legs are feeling heat. Arms are feeling heat. I know you can feel it too. Just kind of a panicky. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's just settle that. It's kind of a kind of feeling. Everything's kind of like jostled. Everything on the inside is just like, feel a little bit lightheadedness. Not a lot, just a little bit lightheadedness. Feel a little bit kind of active. So that's participating, right? Just interacting with those kind of edges, right? The top, right? Oh, the inhale, it's the greatest. Hold that inhale for a minute. It's going to suck. Exhale all the way down. Hold that exhale at the bottom. Finally, it's like, oh, finally I'm breathing out. Oh, thank goodness. Then you hold at the bottom, and then that's even worse. It's just like quick turnaround. The body's just wanting what it wants, and then it's creating sensation. Give me what I want. And then you breathe in, and it's okay, that's better. But then there's something else. There's all this activation. It's fast. Participate. All right, well, let's participate at that fastness, okay? It's called fire breathing, what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to do fire breathing. I'm going to combine it with some breath holds. So this is what it's going to look like. You're going to see my body kind of jumping. So just kind of, if you want to watch, so this is fire breathing. I don't know if you can tell, but as I'm doing that, I'm kind of moving a little bit. So the bouncing of my diaphragm as I move, the way the breath is coming in is changing. So if I'm kind of lifting up, you can really feel the breath here. I also feel the bouncing here, depending on how I'm aligned here. So again, I'm creating this activation. I'm participating with it. And I'm going to take it all the way up. Hold it. Take it all the way down. Hold it. Okay. And even it out. My entire inner environment is just wiped out. All these techniques that I just kind of threw at you, and forgive me for just throwing them at you, because each one has its own origins, its history, it's related to all kinds of practices. There's lots of kind of evidence, some scientific, but a lot of anecdotal evidence that suggests that fire breathing does certain things to the emotional state, the inner environment. The holds do a certain thing. There's elements of vagus nerve engagement here. So a lot to what I just showed you. But more than that, I wanted to just point out how you can create environments inside that force you to do certain things, and that's creating edges. So when you're creating these edges, you participate with them. And the practice, right, to participate with the edge during your practice is to practice participating with the edge during life with conflict. Participate. Okay, so that kind of settles that. Let's go to fourth bell. But it's really nice. Like right now, I feel a kind of a deeper calm. My eyes are kind of closing more deeply. I can feel the muscles of my eyeballs just really kind of settling. It's like my eyes are deepening into their sockets. There's a little bit of a softness to my skin. Like it just, everything feels a little bit quieter, more mellow. So now going into the practice, repeat after me. May I be at peace with the conflict in my mind. May I be at peace with the conflict in my body. May I be at peace with the conflict in my heart. May I be at peace with the conflict in my mind. May I be at peace with the conflict in my body. May I be at peace with the conflict in my heart. May you be at peace with the conflict in your mind. May you be at peace with the conflict in your body. May you be at peace with the conflict in your heart. May you be at peace with the conflict in your mind. May you be at peace with the conflict in your body. May you be at peace with the conflict in your heart. May we be at peace with the conflicts in our mind. May we be at peace with the conflict in our bodies. May we be at peace with the conflicts in our heart. May we be at peace with the conflicts in our minds. May we be at peace with the conflicts in our bodies. May we be at peace with the conflicts in our hearts. Two rounds of full breath to finish the practice. You gotta love the training. That breath stuff's for real. I'm telling you. All right. Well, I hope you have a glimpse of what it means to participate with conflict instead of identifying with conflict, becoming conflict. All right, Armor Down. I'll see you later.